In a cursed small town, every 20 years on the night of the blood moon, a girl is taken by a mysterious beast. 19-year-old Emery is forced to participate in this cruel ritual, but she believes she won't be chosen. However, when she encounters a gigantic wolf in the forest, everything becomes enigmatic. Can she escape the fate arranged for her? Let's unveil the mystery together. Chapter 1. Finding the dress. The week was finally here. The week of the blood moon. No matter how hard I tried to get away from it, it kept showing up. I had no idea why everyone was so intrigued by this horrendous and barbaric ritual. Did something called the ritual to the beast sound like something to set? The beast, as they refer to, is an unknown creature, but doesn't that just maximize the fear factor? I listened to these tortuous stories since I was a child, considering I would be of age when the next ritual came around. I was 19, just the age to be a part of the ritual. There is no actual proof of what happens to the girl who goes missing, but that's completely baffling to me. How could one girl just fall off the face of the earth? While some feared for their lives, others went shopping for the night of the ritual. The elders of the town who controlled the ritual made this inhumane tradition into a glamorized festival. Who even knew what this beast was or what he wanted? These girls might as well be preparing for their own death. Let me enlighten you on this alleged tradition that may be harmless or harmful. Centuries ago there was this beast that was described as Satan himself that owned this land of the village. But as time grew by, humans began developing the area. Humans took over the land, and it was now the small little town of Fairburn. The beast was angry, but they quickly found a solution. I didn't know how, but they did. The treaty that was formed stated that the village protects the beast's secret and presents all women of ages 16 to 19 to him on the first blood moon to occur every 20 years, and the humans may receive all land to develop. The treaty was quickly accepted by everyone as the beast got what it wanted, and the humans got the clarification that only one of all the girls would be taken. Or so we were all told. It doesn't seem like a fair trade to me, but then again, I wasn't around centuries ago. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Since then, every 20 years, one girl is taken by the beast. The girls were supposed to be dressed in all white as they are chained into forests so they wouldn't be able to run. Then the beast shows up and chooses who he wants and disappears with her. No trace can be found. The other girls, however, all found the next day in the forest, right where they were left, not remembering anything of the night before. Some families fear for their daughter's life while most rejoice in the celebration. And no one has a choice, as the treaty is law, and everyone forces the girls to the forest even if they are kicking and screaming. There were hunters who tried hunting the beast to figure out what it was but came up with nothing, while others who were closer to figuring it out disappeared in the forest completely, just as the girl that is taken. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The forest went on for miles into rocky mountain tops and dangerous trenches, so the hunters could never find their way through, as it would take days or even weeks to get through the forest until they could find anything else. Of course I know that I will not be chosen, as I hate this ritual with all of my heart and soul, so there is no way this beast is going to take me. But still I hate being a part of this tradition. Plus I may get hypothermia from sitting out all night in the middle of the forest. No blanket, no heater, just plain old me in that stupid white dress. My family persistently pushed me to this ritual. My father was a bit worried, but my mom convinced him that it would be the best thing. Even my little sister was excited for it. But fortunately for her, she was only 15. Unlike the other girls in this town, I wanted to explore the world, move out of this creepy town and go to college, graduate with a medical degree, and help those that are not as fortunate to get the medical help that some take for granted. Most importantly, I wanted to live, not die in some stupid ritual. My sister Avery was also sick. She had muscular dystrophy. It basically means that over time, her muscles are being broken down, and someday, sooner rather than later, she will become so weak that she wouldn't be able to walk. One of the reasons I didn't want to leave her was because I wanted to be here and take care of her. I wanted to go to medical school and fight to find a cure for her, or a way for her to be able to walk when her legs give out. I had a life to live. I even had a boyfriend who was also against this insane ritual and creature. Jackie and I always had that in common. A main reason why I liked him so much. But he was funny and charming. It was impossible to hate him. He and I both didn't want me to be a part of the ritual, but my mom and the entire village is making everyone one of us. Eligible. Attend. Not as if we have a choice. My friends couldn't be more excited for this. The more I tried to show them how cool the tradition was, the more they found positive things to say about it. But as of now they have become competitors to each other, thinking this is some competition for the beast. Strange didn't even begin to describe it. Today was Monday and the blood moon was set to take place on Saturday night. My mom and sister dragged me out of the house to go dress shopping as the ritual calls for the girls to wear a white dress. Something to do with purity and innocence and all that nonsense. The streets were busy with girls in the most glamorous stores looking for their dress and individuals on the streets decorating for the ritual. They celebrated and decorated as if it was Caesar returning from defeating Pompey. Streamers, lights, and the works. Emery, what store do you want to start in first? My mother asked as she led the way. Anywhere not crowded. You know, I already don't like this thing, I said with a frown to exaggerate my point. Emery, please don't fight with me on this again. We already talked about this, she said in a stern voice. But Mum, it doesn't make sense to spend a truckload of money for just one night that can either end in my death or me remaining here and have nothing else to do with the dress. If you don't want to shop then don't. But your sister and I are going to get a dress for you, whether you like it or, she said as she and my sister Avery took off to one of the most expensive stores in towns which just happened to be the one filled with the most people. My mom has been talking about this day since I was born. I seriously couldn't catch a break. 20 years ago my mom was 23, so she was not eligible to partake there for now, but I have a chance. She is jumping for joy. But she has never and will never be in the position I am in. When my mom and sister took off I walked around a bit, trying to avoid everyone as much as possible. I went to the small pizza restaurant which was thankfully away from the crowd when I saw a little antique store in a secluded alleyway. I noticed it before but never spared my time. But right now it seemed like the only place without dozens of people and a bus full of squealing girls, so I walked in. It was quite amazing actually. Everything was vintage. From a grandfather clock to a grand piano to just about any old thing you can find. There was even a classic record player. I loved everything to do with turntables and I actually started my own vinyl collection. Being the curious one I looked around and saw no one, so I found a vinyl from a classic band from the 80s. I slipped the disc on the track and placed the needle to start playing. To say it played beautifully and melodiously was an understatement. Can I help you, dear? Someone asked from behind me and I squealed in fright. Oh no. Sorry, I just couldn't help myself. It is a beautiful turntable, I said as smiled at the elderly woman. It isn't you played my favorite record, dear, she said beaming brightly at me. I love this band, I said returning her smile. Shouldn't you be shopping for your dress? No, I don't do the whole ritual thing. My mom and sister are actual out looking for a dress for me. I replied. Why? Scared of the beast? She asked, looking amused. No. It's just that this whole thing seems like a made-up folk tale that might just be a cover-up for something a little more sinister. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Now I agree with you there, honey. But don't think that the beast isn't real. I know that there may not be proof, but then again, is there proof of it not existing? Well, there isn't, but... I trailed off because she was right. But nothing, dear. I'm with you on this. But considering you have to go, why don't I show you a few pieces? She suggested. No, I'll pass, I said, and she only laughed as she pulled me to the clothes section. We are going to find you a dress. You may not like this event, but you, my dear, are going out in style, she said, smiling at me. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. If you insist. Okay, you look through that section, she said, pointing to all the white dresses. I will be right back. And she walked to the back room. All the dresses here were actually quite beautiful but not particularly my taste. After what seemed like forever, the store owner came back. "Find anything yet, dear?" She came, box in hand. "No, not yet," I said, looking through the racks of white dresses she had. "I was hoping so," she said as she set the box down on a table. "This dress belonged to me when I was around your age." She smiled at the memory. "Except I had this forward though I was going to get married to man before I met late husband." "I really can't." I shook my head. "Can't or wouldn't. Just take a look, dear," she said as opened up the box and took out the dress. It was breathtaking. It was like a dress made with magic. As weird as that sounds, it was absolutely beautiful. "It's amazing," I said as my eyes practically bugged out of my eyes. "But I seriously can't. This must cost a fortune. I wouldn't be able to afford it," I said, stepping away. "Who said anything about paying?" she said, amused. "I don't understand. I'm giving it to you, dear." "No charge," she said, packing it back in the box. "I can't accept this." I pushed the box back to her. "Honey, I have no use for this again. It will fit you perfectly and you'll pull it off." She smiled even brighter. "Okay, I will take it. But at least let me know your name," I said curiously. "It's Jane Fraser." "I'm Emery Aiken." "Nice to meet you, Mrs." I said, putting my hand out for her to shake. "The pleasure is mine, dear child. And you're making me sound old. Call me Jane." She laughed. "Well, Jane, I best be going now before my mother thinks that the beast took me early." I laughed, but her expression just fell. "Emery, just be careful, okay? You never know what's lurking out there." "I will." I smiled even though her words made me curious. "Okay, now go, child, before your family gets worried," she said, smiling again. "And don't forget to come back." "I would. Soon. Hopefully I will be here more often when the whole ritual fiasco is over," I said as I walked out. "Bye, Jane. Bye, dear," she called back. By the time I was done, I had enough time to get my pizza and finish it until my mom called and said to meet her in the shoe store. She took that long in the clothing store. I was terrified of how long she would take in the shoe store. The dress she found was nice but not nearly as beautiful as Jane's, so I decided to hide my dress so my mother wouldn't make me return it. While she shopped for accessories to match the dress she bought, I shopped for the dress I was given. It was going to be a long week, but hopefully I would survive it. Chapter 2, Forest Strangers. Wednesday. The days were going by in a blur and my days were literally numbered. For the past 2 days my mother had me shopping from makeup down till underwear. Seriously, Mum, I don't think the beast wants to get to know my undergarments. I barely spoke to any of my friends because they were either fiercely competitive or they were on the same boat as me and their moms were forcing them to go shopping. I haven't even had time for my boyfriend Jake. I had been so busy I almost forgot about him. Jack and I had been good friends since childhood because it was a small town and everyone knew everyone. He was my best friend and we shared everything with each other. When we started high school, we decided to date. At first it was all romance and relationships, but now during senior year, I felt as if the spark kind of blazed out. I finally got my mother to let me have a day without shopping and grooming. Jake and I had a date today, and I couldn't wait to see him and just let all the stress go. Jake's house was on the other side of town and closer to the forest that surrounded half of our town. Jake's family was one of the few that hunted for the beast. When I say hunted, I mean full-on guns and ammunition, crossbow and arrows and very sharp daggers. Jake tried to teach me to shoot a gun one time, since his father has been teaching him since he was old enough to handle one. His ancestors believed that the beast was something that was sent by the devil to kidnap the women in our community, therefore it should be sent back. His grandfather also had a very close third last 40 years, which led to him and the rest of the lunatic hunters into the forest in search of the beast. But strangely enough, they never returned, and weeks after their bodies were found on the edge of the forest. I had to admit, hearing Jake tell me that story only heightened my fear. That is the main reason for the hatred both Jake and I held for both the beast and the ritual. When I pulled up at Jake's house, I saw him approaching from his garage with his favorite toy, the crossbow. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. He called when I got out. Jake, oh my gosh, I missed you so much. You have no idea what kind of torture my mom had me through. I said, rushing into his arms. I'm so sorry, Pumpkin. I know how much you hate this. As much as I do. But I promise you that you wouldn't get taken. And if you did, I would do what I'm best at and hunt down that godforsaken creature. He said, smiling down at me. We may be lacking our spark, but boy, did he have a way with words. Come on, I want to show you something. He said, taking one of my hand in one of his that didn't hold the crossbow, and pulled me towards the forest. Jake, where are we going? It was unlike him to take me into the forest even on the edge. Just come on, he said, pulling me, and I followed hesitantly. When we finally stopped, it had been about 10 minutes of walking and there were duffel bags on the ground where we stood. Jake, what are these? I asked carefully. These are our equipment. Guns and arrows to teach you. Emery, I love you and I can't risk losing you. Oh, so you're going to play the love card? Jake, I'm not going to get taken. Seriously. I can't believe he thought I was going to get taken. But you said yourself that you hate the beast. I'm not saying that you're going to be chosen, but we have no chance of knowing that for sure. However, you do have to attend this ritual. He said as if he wanted me to be a part of the ritual. Why do you want me to get taken? I asked, baffled. Of course not, Emery, but you have to be in this ritual. Please don't fight it. He said, opening his bag up, which produced a few guns. Why am I such an important asset to this if I may not even be the one to get chosen? I asked as he handed me a gun. Emery, every girl of your age group is going to be there, and the beast will only show up if everyone is there. Once everyone is there, I can be one step closer to uncovering the story of what the beast actually is. Together we can take it down once and for all. This opportunity only comes once in every 20 years. He begged. So you are forcing me into this crap because of your stupid affiliation with the beast. You have got to be kidding me, Jake. I'm trying, okay? I'm going to give you some more practice in case something happens. I promise I would find you if need be, but you also need to learn to protect yourself. He said, gently caressing my face. Stop it, I said, taking a step away from him. You're practically selling me off to the devil just to fuel your obsession. Jake, the beast isn't real. Yeah, everyone is making me go to this ritual, but to hear the words from your mouth, well, that was just a blow to the gut, I said as I created more space between us where he walked towards me. And what makes you think you can actually catch this beast now? We finally have the technology for this. Please try to understand. The only thing I want more than that beast is your safety, he said, coming closer. Safety, my ass. And what technology can help you in finding this thing? Technology. Emery has developed what we call a tracking device. He took a little chip out of his pocket and showed me it. This chip will help us kill this beast once and for all, he said, smirking. How? Because you're going to stitch it onto dress. Jake, your delusion. What if it kills me or the dress gets wet or something? I said, trying to clarify every single fault with this chip. But what he said next was a fault in its own that didn't need clarification. Stitch the chip. He laughed. No, Emery. We're going to implant the chip into your hand. He said like it was the most obvious thing. Implant what now? You have got to be joking, right? I asked, but he only shook his head. No. Jake, this is going to damn far. You can't implant a chip in me. I'm not your lab rat. And I am definitely not helping you in finding that beast, I said, backing away as he neared me with the chip and a knife he took out from his belt. Jake, what are you doing? I asked, and he continued walking towards me. Emery, please. We can do this the hard way or the easy way. And with that I ran. I ran as fast as my feet can take me. I was good at track, but Jake was a near champ. I could hear him running behind me, but I pushed my legs to go faster. Emery, wait. Emery, you don't know where you're going. But I kept running without any sense of direction. I didn't know the woods at all, but Jake knew it like the back of his hand. Well, I've never been in here, so I had no idea if I was headed towards his house or deeper into the forest. I started slowing down when I could no longer hear Jake's running and calling behind me, but I kept moving. I couldn't believe he actually wanted me to participate in this event, just for his own motive, but what baffled me more was the chip. He wanted to actually put that piece of plastic in my hand. I continued walking and tears continued flowing. neither stopping. I walked for what felt like hours. Soon enough the mosquitoes came out and really started to bug me since I had on a jeans short. But what really worried me was the fact that the stars are now very brightly shining in the sky and I had no clue where I was going. I left my purse, which included my cell phone, in my car, and now I had no way of contacting anyone. From what turned out to be me running away from psychotic boyfriend have now turned into me being fully lost in the middle of the forest. A forest that was hundreds of acres long and densely filled with trees. I tried using the stars to guide me, but considering I didn't know how to, I just gave up after about a half hour at looking at the sky. It was quite beautiful, really. The thousands of stars dancing around the moon was really spectacular and a sight for sore eyes. With all the artificial lights in town, the stars weren't nearly as prominent as this. After walking for about an hour more, my feet became weak and gave out beneath me. I looked for a dry patch on the ground and sat down leaning on a tree. I felt exhausted and my eyes became drowsy as sleep came over me. My eyes were closing, but there was suddenly a rustling behind the trees a few feet away from me. My adrenaline suddenly kicked in and was in full gear. My eyes flew open. I jumped to my feet in a flash. I could hear the crunching of leaves as something approached me, and I prayed to God it wasn't the psychotic Jake. Who knew what he would do when he found me? I would prefer it to be the beast than Jake. At least it might kill me faster, but Jake might just torture me and implant that stupid chip. The thing got closer and closer. My heart dropped to my stomach. My hands became clammy and I started to cold sweat. Something that happens when I'm frightened. What if it was the beast? What would it do? Oh my gosh, I'm going to die. But I was surprised, relieved, scared as hell and confused at what came out. Surprised because of who came out. Relieved if he didn't came out. Scared as hell of what could happen now. And confused as to why the person was here. It was a guy, and he was the most incredible man I have ever laid eyes on. He looked about 20 years old. He had dark brown hair and gorgeous chocolate eyes. His jaw looked chiseled enough for me to seriously cut my finger from just touching it. He was breathtaking, but being alone in the woods with a stranger, well, I guess you can see the multitude of issues here. I snapped out of my daze and held my posture high to give off a little intimidation, but boy was I scared as ever on the inside. My brain was screaming to run, but I knew it would only get worse if he knows I'm scared and my legs were aching. When I looked back at him, he was looking at me in amazement and wonder. At least I think it was amazement. I cleared my throat and brought him back from his reverie and asked, "Who are you? And what are you doing in the middle of the forest? You're beautiful." He mumbled so silently I wasn't sure if that was what he said. He looked at me in amusement and said, "I can ask the same of you." Well, his voice was like silk but manly with a hint of authority. Well, I asked first. "Okay. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm hunting and heard something walked by. Now what are you doing here? I got lost. No use lying. Why are you wandering around in the forest alone? Let's just say my boyfriend turned out to be a loon. He seemed hurt when I said that, but quickly recovered. So he left you out here, all alone, not knowing of what creatures may be lurking out here." I could see he was struggling to not get angry. "No, I ran away." "Ran away, why?" "For certain reason, all right." I snapped at him for invading my privacy. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Sorry, I didn't mean to intrude." He suddenly realized that I never saw this boy in my life. It was hard to not know someone in our small town. "Wait, why have I never seen you before?" I asked, and he looked a little taken aback. "Because I'm not from Fairburn," he stated simply. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." I trailed off waiting for him to continue, but he didn't. "So do you know your way out of here?" "Well, that depends. Where do you want to go?" he asked, walking towards me, automatically making me walk backwards. "Back to Fairburn. Do you know your way or not?" I asked and kept walking backwards till my back hit the tree. Shit, he was still walking towards me. He stopped directly in front of me. "Yes, I do. But are you sure you want to leave?" he asked, looking directly into my eyes. Something in his eyes almost made me say that I didn't, or I wanted to stay with him, but I knew better. That I had to get out of here. Now, yes. Now if you can please show me out. I will leave you in peace to carry on with your hunting, I said, pushing him away and walking forward. You're going the wrong way, I heard him call amusingly. Yeah. I did ask you for help, but you were too busy interrogating me, I said, and he started walking in another direction, so I followed. I silently prayed to God that he actually took me back to town instead of trying something. Boys these days, no matter how long you know them, you can't ever trust them. Jake was a classic example of that. When we walked back, things had gotten exceptionally quiet and awkward. The silence was actually deafening. I felt sad that he had nothing to say, so I decided to be the conversational one. So what were you hunting? He turned back and looked at me in surprise as he answered. Just the usual. The usual? You're not one of the beast hunters, are you? Because if you are, just know that I think you guys are way past insane. And with that he chuckled. Actually no, I'm not one of the insane beast hunters. Just a regular normal hunter that catches deer and rabbits. Why look for something that doesn't want to be found, right? He said, and I felt relieved that I wasn't with another lunatic. Right. I mean, seriously, how do they even know this beast exists? To my agent extraordinaire, Myron Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Do you believe it exists? He suddenly asked, throwing me off guard. Well, I mean, I guess it could be a possibility, but then again there isn't any proof, I said, watching his reaction. He looked somewhat disappointed. So what you're saying is that you don't believe? What I'm saying is that whether or not it's real, I just want to get the ritual over with. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He looked hurt when I said that, but he didn't say anything, and I didn't want to make this any more weird. About a half hour later, I started to see the lights of Jake's house. I felt frightened at first to go back there, but the stranger's presence was kind of comforting. I felt somewhat safe knowing he was with me. As we neared the edge of the forest, he stopped and caused me turn around. Confused. Aren't you leaving as well? It's quite late. I said no. I have to get back hunting. He simply said, okay, sure. I said, turning around to leave. But I was stopped when he grabbed my hand and spun me around, causing me to turn straight into his chest. But the electricity I felt was indescribable. It felt like my entire arm was on fire. A pleasurable fire. I forgot to ask for your name. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I answered, and you are, I said, feeling stupid for now asking for his name. Instead of answering me, he just leaned down and whispered into my ear, soon, darling, very soon. In a matter of seconds, he let me go and walked away. His pace was too fast for me to follow behind and question him. I would have gotten lost again if I did. I turned back around and wondered what he meant by soon, but didn't think too hard on it, as I may ever meet him again. When I reached Jake's house, I looked around carefully, making sure that Jake was nowhere in sight. Who knows what he might do if he saw me? When there were no signs of him, I took my car key out and ducked out and trots his lawn and jumped into my car. I speed off towards my house without a second look back. For the rest of the ride home, I couldn't stop thinking about the handsome stranger I met today. I know he was mysterious and creepy to be in the woods like that, but he did help me, and for that I couldn't have been more grateful. But there was still one question on my mind. Who was he? Chapter 3. The ritual. The day was finally upon us. Saturday. The day of the ritual to the beast. Also known as the day I might be sacrificed. Whether I was taken or not was solely up to the eerie and mysterious beast. I hadn't seen Jake since the day I left him in the woods. The day I also met the stranger in the woods. I hadn't been able to get Jake's actions out of my head. He seriously wanted to cut my hand open and implant a chip for his stupid infatuation with the beast. I have known him for as long as I can remember and trusted him with my life, and he just turned out to be a total lunatic. I liked him a lot, but after that night, I wasn't so sure again. Jake's memory had me sulking, but what lightened my mood was the memory of the Greek god of a stranger. He was one handsome hunter. I guessed he must have been from some other town not too far away, because if he was from this town I would have remembered that face. But what I couldn't quite figure out was why he said, "Soon, darling," when I asked him for his name. What the hell was that supposed to mean? Was he going to be there for the festival, or was he going to be in town soon? His answer was very vague and confusing. But all I knew was that I wanted to see him again. When he went back into the forest, I felt like a 3-year-old whose Christmas present was taken away on Christmas morning. I didn't know a single thing about him, yet I felt this way. The lunar eclipse tonight must really be messing with my head. The ritual was set to start at midnight as always. I have never been to one of the rituals to actually see what happens, as no one was supposed to be outside that time, and the last one took place before I was born. The only persons allowed outside were the elders that made sure every girl arrived on time and that everything before midnight ran smooth ears. But before the ritual began they had to leave the area and go back to their homes. The elders was a group made up centuries ago when the ritual was started. It consisted of a board of members who were usually the respected senior citizens of Fairburn. When they passed, their children usually took their place, but whatever they knew was always kept tight-knit and their lips were always sealed. Parents of the girls were permitted to drop their daughters off and say their last goodbye, but again had to leave the area before the ritual began. The only real persons allowed to stay were the girls and a few guards around town who were hired by the elders to keep the hunters away. Jake was of age and a part of the top hunting family, so he was probably going to try to be out tonight after curfew. The hunters also made sure that all girls are present to the ritual so they wouldn't lose their chance of finding this beast. You may think I'm crazy for saying this, but I hope Jake will be fine. He may have wanted to implant a chip in me, but I know he is a good guy deep inside. Really, really far deep inside. Everybody else is supposed to stay locked in their homes and never sneak a peek outside. Everyone complied easily as they were afraid of the beast. My entire day was spent with my mom and sister grooming me for the ritual, while my father sulked about losing his daughter. But I kept reminding them all that I had a huge chance of not being taken, as there were many beautiful girls who were also a part of tonight's ritual. By 11 o'clock in the night my hair was styled and my make-up was done. My mom gave me the dress she bought for me and left me to change. I rested her dress aside and pulled out the dress Jane gave me. It was one of the most beautiful dresses I had ever seen. If I didn't have to attend this darn ritual, I would definitely wear this dress when I got married. But unfortunately I did have to attend, so I only hoped the beast didn't rip me to shreds. When I looked at myself in the mirror after I put my dress on, it finally hit me that it was actually time. I would either be back in my room by the morning, or this would be the last time I would ever see my family or be in this room. I quickly dug through my nightstand and found a recent picture of my family under which was taken on Christmas. We were all happy and together. I put the picture in my bra as we were not allowed to take anything with us. Nothing to remind us of our family or this town. I put my shoes on and went downstairs to where my family was waiting. Oh my gosh. Emery, you look amazing. Where did you get that dress? My mother asked when I descended down the stairs. A friend gave it to me. I said, not wanting to dwell too much on it, as my parents never allow us to accept anything for free, especially an expensive dress. Okay, but if you're here tomorrow, sweetheart, you will return this dress, my mother said. When I looked over to my little sister Avery, she looked heartbroken. She was only 15, and as much as she wanted to partake in the ritual she couldn't, and losing me would be terrible for her. We were really close since she was born. We were sisters and best friends. I don't know what I would do without her. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, she said, rushing into my arms crying. It was a lucky thing I had on waterproof mascara, or else I would have been a mess. I felt another pair of arms wrapped around us, and I saw my mother crying as well. My dad joined soon after. My girls, what am I going to do without you all? He said, sniffing, trying to hide his tears. We all just stood there wrapped in each other's embrace as a family, trying to ease the pain of what could be a loss. Trying to lighten the mood, I said, "Ugh, you guys are ruining my hair," I said in a really girly voice. They all laughed and let go of each other, but I could still see the sorrow in their eyes. "You'll always be beautiful no matter what, honey," my mother said, hugging me again. "And you'd always be our little girl," my father said. They all stepped out of the house with me in tow. Before I closed the door, I took one last look at my house. I took one last look at where all my memories were held from a child, hoping that this wasn't my last time here. By the time we left, it was 11:30, and it took 10 minutes to reach the edge of the forest from my house. As we drove, I noticed that there was absolutely no one outside. Nothing, not even an owl, was heard. It was like the world was paused. The only lights on were the street lights and the moonlight. The full moon that would quickly turn into the blood moon next half hour. It was quite strange driving through town like this. Sooner rather than later, we pulled up at the edge of the forest next to the other cars of the parents. When we got out of the car, there was a guy waiting to check the names of the girls off the list. "Name?" he asked, holding his clipboard. "Emery Aiken. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "All right, Emery Aiken. Right this way," he said, smiling as if I was not about to enter a human sacrifice. "All the girls are here," he announced to the elders. The elders, who were the most knowledgeable of the ritual, made sure to oversee that it runs without a hitch. "Welcome, everyone. Today we are here to join in the ritual to the beast," one of the elderly women said. "I hope you girls are excited to be here and enjoying this festival. Speak for yourself, buddy." "Well, shall we start the ritual to the beast?" another elder asked us, and most just nodded their heads. 2 minutes before everyone leaves, someone said, "I'm going to miss you so much, dear." My mother said, giving me a hug. "I'm going to miss you too, Mom." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "And what about me?" Avery asked, hugging us. "I'm going to miss you most of all, kid," I said, hugging her tightly. "We love you, dear," my family said as they got into their car. "Love you too," I called back at them. When they went into their car, everyone else's parents went as well. I looked around and saw about 100 girls, all dressed in different white dresses. Some were a bit indecent, but some were over the top. I mean, what made them think showing off their assets were going to get the beast? But what really made me laugh was the puffy princess ball gowns that some wore. Weren't they going to be uncomfortable when they got chained up and have to wait for God knows how long? I went up to my really good friend Mon, who, like me, didn't believe in this whole ritual folktale. "Hey Mon, nice dress," I said, smiling at her and glad that she wasn't one to wear the indecent or over-the-top dress, but instead a simple strapless dress. "Oh my gosh." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "Where have you been?" "I have been trying to get away from all these crazies here." She rambled and hugged me. "Hey there to you too," I said, laughing at her outburst. "Also, where did you get this dress? It is gorgeous. Like out of this world beautiful," she squealed, beaming at my dress. "A friend gave it to me." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. "A friend?" Then she wiggled her eyebrows playfully. "Is this friend a certain Jake?" "No, actually Jake and I are over." To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. She frowned. What happened? But before I could answer her, the elders and the guys with the chains called us over. "I'll tell you later," I said as we headed to the forest. Some of the elders carried torches to lead us into the dark, creepy forest since it was pitch black. I looked back and darkness consumed everywhere around us that wasn't covered in light. The men with chains led each one of us to a different tree that were meters away from each other. I didn't realize that we would all be sitting away from each other. It was far enough where we weren't able to see one another due to the darkness and other trees, but we were all close and who was chained next to us. One of the men instructed me to sit on the ground as he took the chains, that were more like shackles, and placed my hands in the cuffs and wrapped the chain around the tree trunk a few times and then placed a padlock to ensure it wouldn't move. The coldness of the metal sent a blood-curdling feeling to settle within me. By the time each of us were locked in place on our own tree, the men with the chains left and the elders left with a few words. So girls, I wish you all the best. Now it's our turn to retire for the night and return to the absence of one of you. All we can say is that whoever will be gone will be dearly missed. Now we hope you girls sit and don't try to run. An elderly woman said, smiling at us as she turned and left with the others. When they left, we had 15 minutes left until midnight. With probably a few minutes left, I looked up to the full moon and saw the darkness that was the Earth's shadow completely engulf the moon, and the moon faded into a red sinister color. It was as if blood was splattered on the moon, but soon the entire moon was a deep red and the sky illuminated the color. All the whispering from the girls was soon turned into labored breaths as everyone witnessed the phenomenon of the blood moon. I could hear the loud clock from the town, struck 12, signaling the start of the ritual to the beast. The blood moon was at its peak in the sky, shilling down with all its red glory. There was a distant howl not too far away. I could hear everyone mumbling around me frantically, but I just looked at the moon, praying for this all to be over with fast. I heard the loud bumping of footsteps echoing through the forest. This was suddenly becoming too real. I felt my heart start to quicken and the unwanted feeling of fright enter me. The thumping became louder and louder until I heading this way. The footsteps finally approached us, it slowed down and I could practically feel it standing just beyond the trees in front of me. My curiosity took over, and I suddenly felt the urge to open my eyes and see what it was. What the infamous beast was. Slowly I opened my eyes and looked straight at the beast. But it wasn't any beast. No, it was a wolf. A gigantic wolf that held the size of a bear. And it was looking directly at me. Red eyes stared straight at me as it took one step at a time and revealed its entire body. The wolf had pitch black fur. Its red eye reminded me of the blood moon above us. It was quite beautiful, but the fact that it might kill me brought me back from my thoughts. Oh God, it was going to die for sure. Everyone knew wolves killed people. They were carnivores. It was looking directly at me. Its next meal. Where I looked at its eye, I could sense danger, but there was also an uncanny feeling of safety, as if it would protect me. I could hear the other girls around me all hyperventilating or going crazy with fright. I had no idea if they saw what I'm seeing or if there were others. The beast. Or in this case, the wolf walked right up to me, never taking its eyes off of me. I couldn't blink either. It was like we were both in a trance. I felt compelled by the creature. The beast stopped directly in front of me and sniffed the air, to which its eyes turned a darker crimson color. When it sniffed me, it let out a loud splitting howl. I cringed back from the sound, but when it saw my reaction, it suddenly stopped and whimpered as if he knew it was hurting me. The wolf then did the last thing I would think of. The wolf bent its large body towards mine and moved his head to my neck. I honestly thought it was going to bite me, but instead it licked the right side of my neck. There was a blazing heat that passed through my body where he did that. The wolf took its eyes away from me for the first time since it saw me and looked at my hands. It took its big paw with sharp nails and broke open both my hand cuffs that were attached to the chain that held me to the tree. This was becoming too frightening. I suddenly felt very sick and my head became dizzy. There were suddenly more wolves of various size and color that appeared behind the wolf in front of me, but they all seemed to have went to the other girls. This all felt insane and I felt as if I was going insane. My vision then became clouded with black spots and I heard the wolf that was in front of me whimper again. My eyes snapped close and I went unconscious, feeling the warmth of something holding me up. Chapter 4. Special Wolf. I slowly felt consciousness. My head was resting on something hard. Or someone, since there was heat radiating of it. But the person smelt amazing. Like the forest mixed with a sort of spice scent. There were arms under me, carrying me. I could feel the movement of the person walking with me in their arms. I tried to pry my eyes open to see where I was and who was carrying me, but they were shut closed. I tried to move, but I couldn't. Then I remembered. The beast. It took me. Was I dead? I felt my mind was blanking again as I slowly fell into unconsciousness for the second time. When I regained consciousness, I was no longer being carried. I could hear the loud rushing and trickling of water nearby. I also heard the shuffling of something's feet near me. I only prayed it wasn't the beast. I slowly pried my eyes open to realize that I was facing the dark sky of the night. I slowly sat up, terrified to make any sudden movement, and realized that I had been lying on the ground of a clearing somewhere in the mountains. There were large rocks around, and I felt the soreness from laying on the ground. To my left I saw the most incredible view in front of my eyes. A waterfall. Never in all my life have I ever seen one in person. It was absolutely stunning. It was large and the scenery was amazing. There were many beautiful vines to the side, and the moonlight that reflected off it was incredible. The water was an iridescent blue which appeared as if the water was glowing under the moonlight. But I remembered that it was the night of the blood moon. The beast had taken me. My thoughts were cut short when I heard something walk behind me. My body instantly tensed and I froze in place, not wanting to know what it was. It was the beast. I was almost positive. I could practically feel his body radiating off him. I gently stood up from where I was sitting, not daring to turn around. When I stood up, it was a bit difficult to stand since I was still in my heels and it was a rocky area. I could hear the crunching of grass moving closer. I decided to turn around. And there he was, looking directly into my eyes, trying to show me he wasn't a treat by stopping in his tracks. The stranger. The same strange guy I met in the woods the day Jake tried to implant that chip in me. The same stranger that I hadn't been able to get out of my head. I let out a sigh of relief, but then I tensed up. How was he here? Why was he here? Where was the beast? All these damn questions is starting to give me a headache. You, I said. What the hell are you doing here? I asked, panicked. Hello to you too, he said, smiling as he took a step towards me. I automatically took a step back. I would never hurt you, he said when he saw my movement. Where is the beast? He hesitated a moment before he answered me. The beast, as you so graciously put it. Left. Left. What do you mean he left? He can't leave. Isn't he supposed to? I don't know. Kill me or something? I asked, exasperated. Or something. The stranger quietly mumbled. Wait, what are you doing here? I asked for the second time, trying to avoid his weirdness. I found you in the forest, just laying there. He motioned to the ground. His story was by far the stupidest thing I have ever heard because the beast doesn't just leave the girl, or else all the girls that were ever taken would have returned by now, and no was allowed to step foot out of their homes, let alone in the forest. Even if he was from somewhere besides Fairburn, the elders told us that no one was allowed to go into the forest, not even someone from a neighboring town. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilbe, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, I said, going along with him. I still had no idea who this guy was. So why are you here? I continued to question, because I wasn't just going to leave you out here in the forest. Besides the beast, the woods are filled with dangerous creatures. Weren't you afraid the beast would come back looking for me? I continued my interrogation. He isn't coming back, he stated simply. How do you know what the beast is or isn't doing? Because I just do, he said with a shrug. You can't just know that. You do, however, know that if and when this aforementioned beast going to hunt us downright. I questioned. He took a step closer and said, and how do you know that? He asked with a smile. The beast, as we all call it. A huge oversized dog, creature which is scary as fuck. I explained. Language, he said as if he was scolding a 5-year-old. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I mumbled quietly, but when I saw him smile I knew he had, even if he was at a distance. It must have really clean ears. I didn't even know why I apologized. And it's not a dog, he said, putting emphasis on the word dog. Oh, isn't? I said, raising my eyebrows. Then what exactly would you call that big fur ball that stands on 4 feet? A wolf, he said with pride. Wait, pride. A wolf isn't that big, I said, because I saw Jake hunt a wolf already and it was the normal size of a dog. It was a special wolf, he said as if that should clarify it. A special wolf. Am I supposed to know what that means? I asked, folding my arms because I felt cold. It was freezing in the woods and my dress just so happened to be sleeveless. You're cold, he said, concerned, while walking towards me while shrugging his jacket off. Well there, buddy. Hold your horses, I said, putting my hand out to stop his movement. I promise I'm not going to hurt you, he said as a look of hurt flew across his face. Haven't you heard? A promise is a fool's comfort. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He said sarcastically and continued walking towards me. Wait, what are you doing? I asked as he came up to me and took off his jacket. Dude, seriously, I'm getting claustrophobic here, I said when he leaned closer and his arms went around me. When he told me to lift my arms backward, I got a little terrified, so I did the one thing that a normal person would do. Well, what I wouldn't did do anyways. I kneed him in the groin and stepped away as he fell at my feet on his knees. Before I could even comprehend that I had done, he got up without a look of pain. What the hell? Wasn't that supposed to hurt like hell? Good shot, he complimented. You have a really pointy knee, he pointed out. What? He asked when he just saw me standing there with a confused expression. Why you? Aren't you supposed to be, like, doubled over in pain or something? I asked, still shocked. Well, you know how they say, buns of steel. He asked and I nodded. Well, I got balls of steel, he said, cock-I-L-Y. Okay, not the best choice of word for the subject at hand. EWWW, gross. I don't want to hear about your, I said, covering my ears. My poor virgin ears. I winned. He just looked at me like I was crazy and laughed. They're all yours, babe, he said after his fit of laughter. Don't call me that, I said angrily. Okay, babe. Whatever you say, babe. Annoying me further. I just shot him a death glare. If look could kill, well, you know he's be 6 feet under by now. Look, you can stay here all night if you want, but I'm going home, I said, turning even though I have no idea where I'm going. He looked panicked and ran to where I was standing before I could even move a foot. No, you can't, he said, blocking me. Why can't I? I asked, confused. Clearly the beast or wolf or whatever it was didn't want me, so I'm going home, I said, sidestepping him. He could still be out there, he said frantically. But you said he was gone and he wouldn't hurt me, I said, catching him in his lie. Yeah, but I'm not a wolf whisperer, plus last time I met you, you were lost in the woods, he pointed out. Yeah, but I recently installed a G.S in my brain, so I'm good to go, I said, continuing to walk. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. He called me and I stopped, frozen in place. You remembered my name? I asked, turning around. Of course I remembered, he said, walking towards me. Now, unless you're crazy and actually installed a G.S in your brain, why don't you let me take you home? The same place as last time. I was surprised he said he'll take me home after acting crazy, but I really wanted to get home. I was dead tired, and even though I have barely walked in these heels, they were aggravating me. Yes, can you take me back to Fairburn? Yeah, sure, he said, holding his hand out for mine. I looked at it and then looked at him and shook my head no. You take my jacket, he said, giving it to me. Thank you, I said gratefully as I pushed my hands into the long sleeves. When I shrugged it on, I was engulfed in his amazing scent. I just wanted to sniff it all day. Yeah, I must have hit my head when the beast took me. Led the way, Captain Stranger. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Captain Stranger, he asked with a smile. Well, you still haven't told me your name, or how you knew we would meet again, I said, remembering his words. Soon, I. Very soon. I haven't, have I? He asked with a smirk. Not that I recall. No, I said. Wait, you aren't planning to harm me and then leave me without a trace of your identity, are you? I said, moving away from him as we began walking away from the waterfall. No, I told you I'm not going to hurt you, he said reassuringly. Good cause I would have castrated you, I said honestly. He looked a bit scared for a moment, but quickly covered it up. So how do you know the forest is good? I asked when I moved back closer to him. You ask a lot of Christians, you know that, he said with a smile. I then heard him whisper something, but I wasn't sure if I heard correct. He said something along the lines of, "You're going to make a great Luna." Deciding he was enough of a crazy person, I decided to let it slide. But what the hell was a Luna? You still haven't answered my question. I trailed off. Didn't I tell you that I hunt? Yeah, but dude, you seem to know the entire freaking forest like the back of your hand. That's insane, I said, looking at him smirking. One of my many talents. He winked at his double-meaning sentence. You're strange. You know that, stranger? I'll take it as a compliment. Whatever floats your boat, buddy, I mumbled. So are you ever going to tell me your name? I asked again. If you must know it's TH, I cut him off before he could finish. Your name is Theo. That's so cool. I had a dog named Theo, I said excitedly. No, it's not Theo. What happened to your dog? He asked curiously. I asked disappointingly. Well, Theo kinda jumped the fence and ran away. To my agent extraordinaire, my Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Well, I'm sorry about your dog, he said honestly. It's all right, I replaced him with a cat named Gio. I shrugged, but this time he definitely looked at me like I grew to heads. So if your name isn't Theo, then what is it? I curiously asked. Thane, I said, trailing off, waiting for him to continue. He clearly didn't understand because he just looked down at me and said, What? What's your last name? I said, shaking my head. Oh, it's Blackwood, he said, rubbing behind his neck like he was nervous. Nice name, Thane Blackwood. Unique, I said, smiling at him, and his eyes held a lustful look and seemed to darken in color. And what about you, Emery? What's your last name? He asked, and when he said my name, it sounded like silk. Beautiful, even if I did have a weird name. Wouldn't you like to know? I said with a wink. I actually would, he replied. Just when I was about to answer him with another smart-ass remark, I heard a rustling from behind a tree a few feet away from us. I instantly flew into Thane's arms. He opened his arms and held me close to him. I don't know why, but I felt safe and secure in Thane's arms. Just being near him eased my tension. I didn't know what was happening to me. I buried my head in his chest and I heard him sniffing me. What the hell? When I realized we weren't moving or being attacked by the beast, I opened my eyes and saw Thane smiling down at me. I came to my senses and pushed him away. I turned and looked around and saw nothing. What was that? I said, moving to stand closer to him. It wasn't the beast, he assured me as if he knew what I was thinking. Then, what was it? I asked, looking back at him. It was a deer, he said, pointing behind me. When I turned to where he was pointing at, I saw a gorgeous deer walking out from behind the trees. I moved behind Thane because I was afraid that it would attack me, which was a stupid assumption, but I didn't really have any experience in the deer department. It's all right, he wouldn't hurt you, Thane said, putting a hand behind my back and gently moving me towards the deer. I tensed at his touch and he released me, but being the chicken that I am, I quickly grabbed his hand and put my hand in his. I couldn't help but think that it fit perfectly in his manly hands and the tingles were electrifying. I moved to the deer gently and slowly, trying to not make any sudden movements and scare it away while pulling Thane behind me. I came up close enough to touch it, but was unsure of what to do next. Gently place your hand on his head, Thane whispered in my ear as he raised my hand in his and gently placed it on the deer. He moved my hand in a stroking movement on the deer as he stood right behind me. I held one of his hand and the other he was holding to touch the deer. I mustered the courage to pet him by myself, so I turned my head to Thane and gave him a reassuring smile as I let his hand go and he removed his other hand from where we were stroking the deer. I was actually doing it. I was touching a deer. Even though I was okay with touching the deer, Thane remained close behind me and put his hands on my waist and gave me a reassuring squeeze. The deer moved away from my hand and I got a little scared from its sudden movement, but Thane pulled me behind him in a protective stance. But the deer didn't want to hurt me. It just gracefully walked away behind some trees and out of sight. I turned to Thane with an excited expression and he held one of admiration. That was epic on so many proportions. I squealed like a little girl who saw a unicorn. You were great, he said, putting me in a side hug. You really know your way around animals, don't you? I commented with a smile. Well, I don't like to brag, but they do love me, he said with a smirk. Egotistical, aren't you? I said, pulling away from the too long of a hug. Alex Aiken, I said, referring to his question. Aiken? He asked, confused. Yes, I'm little old Emery Aiken, I said, and he just smiled. We continued walking and my feet started to pain me, so I stopped and held onto Thane's arm as I took my shoe off. When I touched his arm, however, I felt a tingling sensation. I knew he felt it too because his arm twitched from my touch. I ignored it and took off my shoes. When I looked at him, his eyes still held that lustful look. I turned away from him and continued walking, and he snapped out of his trance. Let me hold them, he said, taking me off guard. What? I asked, confused. Let me hold your shoes, he said, putting his hand out for my heels. No, I can hold my own shoes. To my agent extraordinaire, Myron Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Either let me hold your shoes or carry you, he said, giving me a look. Why do you want to hold my shoes? Okay, I'm carrying you, he said, moving closer to. Wait, I said, shoving the shoes in his chest. Thank you, he said, holding it. But why do you want to hold my shoes? I asked, confused as always. Because what kind of gentleman would I be if I didn't? Plus you're already holding up your dress. Your mother raised you right, I commented. He nodded and changed the topic. You look exhausted. I feel how I look, I said, yawning. We're almost there, he said, but I couldn't see any lights from the town from where we were. When we reached the edge of the forest, however, it wasn't my old town. The buildings were completely different and I have never seen this place before. When I turned to ask Thane where we were, he just had a sad look on his face. I'm sorry, Emery, he said with a guilty expression. Before I could say anything, I felt something hit the back of my head and I started seeing black spots. I braced for the impact of my fall, but I felt hands support me and that was it. I fell unconscious for the third time tonight.